Hi, my name is Siti Zulaika binti Zulkarnain and my student ID is 2018260972. Today, I'm going to introduce you about housing in Ireland. So, this is my team member. First, we have Nurul Najwa binti Muhaizal Isma and her student ID is 2020970625. Next, we have Nurul Afina binti Nori and her student ID is 2018223362. Next, we have Siti Nurshara binti Zaidi and her student ID is 2018248038. And the last one, we have Nurul Ifara Hana binti Zamhuri and her student ID is 2018223208. So, this is our table of content. First, we have introduction. Second, we have government intervention. Third, we have factor of housing. And the last one, demand and supply. Ireland is the island in the Northern Atlantic. It is separate from the Great Britain to exist by the North Channel, the Irish Sea and the St. John Channel. Ireland is the second largest island of the British Isles, the third largest in the Europe and also 20th largest in Earth. The population census is a systematic count on a given data for any person living in Ireland. It takes place every 5 years and is administered by the Central Statistics Office CSO. The findings are then used in programs such as public transit, hospital, housing and education to design infrastructure. Based on the map provided, this is the map of population in Ireland in 2020. Dark colour is the area with the highest population, then the light colour is the lowest population. Dublin has a dark colour and the population of Dublin is 1,228,000, while the Leitrim has the brighter colour area and the population of Dublin is 31,798 population. So, this is housing definition. Housing is the physical space where we become who we are, where our psychological life takes place. This idea of housing describes the heterogeneity and complexity of the word home, which is not just a physical entity but also include ecological entity as well as economic and social dimension. This is a few elements of housing. First, we have shelter as a protection. Second, we have privacy. Privacy is social element that divide house into space. Third one is location. Location is the contact of spatial. Next, we have environmental amenity that affect the desirability of resident. The last one is investment, that durable community.
Government intervention in housing policies of Ireland. Built to accelerate the availability of housing in this country, Rebuilding Ireland tackles the scarcity of housing in our country. This action-driven strategy would lead to a drastic rise in the national distribution of homes. This initiative, ambitious and creative in its breadth and progressive in its approach, would meet the needs of homeless people and families in emergency accommodation. The action plan for housing and homelessness includes a comprehensive 5-pillars approach. These pillars are the foundation upon which we will build the plan. The first one is address homelessness. And the second one is accelerate social housing. Social housing is totally and utterly inadequate in Ireland. House prices are looking dangerously hot in Dublin in particular, notwithstanding some cooling in recent months on the back of the eminently sensible lending restrictions introduced by the central bank earlier this year. The third one is build more homes. And the fourth one is improve rental sector. On the rental side, the private residential tenancies board will be given increased powers that will aim to ensure the landlords behave properly. There will be a 2-year freeze on rent rises, and there will be a 90 days notification of a rent increase, and 100% mortgage relief will be given to landlords who have taken on social security tenants. And the last one is utilize existing housing. The government of Ireland also have their own government scheme for first-time home buyers and existing homeowners. There are 6, all of them. The first one is Equity Loan Scheme, available to first-time buyers and existing homeowners who want to buy a new-built house. The second one, Shared Ownership. Shared ownership is where you buy a share of a home from the landlord, who is usually the council or a housing association, and rent to the remaining share. The last one is Equity Sharing Scheme. There is an equity sharing scheme in Northern Ireland where you can buy a property, often at a discount, with the housing association or the Northern Ireland Housing Executive.
Traditional Irish house was a common low-density housing around the southeast of Ireland. The density is 7 dwellings per hectare. The plot ratio is 6.1 for 1 story, and the covered area is 30%. The price is approximately €198,850. Next, terrace house is a type of low-density housing, model on the type of housing found in the inner suburbs of Dublin and other cities. The density for terrace house is 25 dwellings per hectare, which covered area is 44%, and the plot ratio is 0.72 for 2 to 3 story. The price is approximately €795,000. Next, there are medium density houses, which is townhouse. This block has no north-facing units, with all living areas facing east, west and south in Ireland. The density is 170 dwellings per hectare, with 30% covered area and 1.75 plot ratio. The price for townhouse in Ireland is approximately €150,000. Next, there are condominium that categorized as high-density housing. This house is located in dense city center location and creates all apartments which are dual aspect. High in a city can act as a point of reference in the urban landscape. Density for condominium is 330 dwellings per hectare with 25% covered area and 3.3 plot ratio. Normally, condominium in Ireland were in range €1.5 million. In terms of location, Dublin housing price is approximately €695,000, which is relatively expensive because Dublin is a big city with 544,100 population that run various economics such as information technology, digital media, financial services, and pharmaceutical industry. Facilities in Dublin can be ranked as 5, as it is a city that is be a focal point for most Ireland citizens. Next, Cork housing price is approximately €245,000, located in southwest of Ireland with population 245,000. Economic in Cork usually is about Cork University Hospital, University College, Colin Base Barracks and City Council. The facilities rank are 5 as it is Ireland's largest and second most populous county. Next, Londonderry housing is approximately €179,950 in price. Londonderry population is 24,129. It is fourth largest city in Ireland with facilities rank is 4 and economic based on shipbuilding, rope manufacture and textile. Galway is a city in the west of Ireland and the housing price is approximately €195,000 with the population of 79,934. Galway carried out economic-based life science financial services, agribusiness, and agri-food. Galway facilities rank is 4 as it is known for cultural heart of Ireland. Next, Roscommon located in Western Region with population 5,876 and economic based on agriculture and fishing. Its facilities rank as 3 as the population is in a small scale. Next, Leitrim is the smallest by population in Ireland with 594 population. Its economic based on agricultural, forestry and fishing. Its facilities rank is 3 as it is not highly developed.
Future housing demand forecasts provide a significant input to housing policy. In preparing the national planning system, we have seen the role that demographic forecasts in the related housing demand have played. They also look at how the expected demand for households could be split between the various forms of housing tenure, which is owner occupancy, rental in the private sector, and social housing or renting. The demand for housing is a product of number of variables. A driver of demand is population growth, including migration flows. The demographic and socio-economic shifts also have an effect on the other housing demand, such as rising life expectancy or an increasing number of single-person households that represent improved longevity and breakdown of relationships. Affordability can affect both the decision to create an autonomous household and the choice of tenure. So in this case, Ireland currently faces the challenge of needing to increase housing supply to meet demand. It is necessary to look at whether the dwellings are of the right type and in the right locations to meet forecast demand. The trend towards an increase in 1 and 2 person households may also contribute to a demand for smaller units. The element that we found for housing market trend demands is population projection. They use the most recent CSO population projections, which is published in July 2018, that project population by age group and gender to 2051 in this housing demand study. Those estimates are based on a number of fertility, mortality, and net migration assumptions. The 2016 census reveals that the total size of households stabilized in 2016 compared to 2011. It reflects the first breakthrough in the average size of the households since the state was created. For the most part, it probably reflects change made on the living conditions of individuals due to the housing crisis instead of any changes in the taste of populations. Our forecasts indicate that the average long-run decline in recommences in household size. Impact of COVID-19 on housing market trend demand. COVID-19 has disrupted the usual seasonal pattern of the housing market and may have flattened the annual comparison. First is demand still high. Demand from home buyers remains robust at the same time. The traffic on the My Home website, housing demand up to 40 to 60% in 2020 compared to 2019 on different metrics. This adds to the evidence from pandemic unemployment payment claimant data that younger, lower-paid employees in the manufacturing, hospitality, and retail industries were more likely to be those who lost their jobs. Demand also appears to have been fueled by buyers who feel that because of COVID-19 now might be a good time to obtain reduced rates. Second is impact on the rental market. However, with the Consumer Price Index (CPI) private rent index showing negative inflation for the first time this period, COVID-19 does appear to have reached the rental market. During the pandemic, the combination of working from home, demand for greater living space, and the diminished appeal of Dublin all seem to have driven rents down.
As the figure shown, flow from 2011 has dropped. Until 2013, the units of supply supply houses rise until 2019. Over the past 5 years, housing supplies have recovered quite strongly, rising from just over 5,500 residential units in 2014 to just under 20,250 residential units in the year 2019. The rise in the supply of housing has gained momentum over the past several years, as can be seen in figure. It is projected that the housing supply rate was closer to the population growth rate in Ireland from 2011 to 2019, excluding Dublin, but the supply rate did not keep pace with the population growth rate in Dublin over the same period. As the supply of housing has risen significantly since 2019, it is tempting to argue that the Irish housing market is quickly approaching equilibrium, where demand has caught up with supply. The market supply curve, obtained by adding together the individual supply curve in the economy, is the counterpart to the market demand curve. The supply curve slopes upward to amount supplied to the consumer rise as cost increases. 1. As prices rise, more businesses plan to join the market. Example, these companies generate some positive quantity rather than zero. 2. As rate rise, companies increase the amount they want to manufacture. The market supply curve indicates at each price the quantity of houses supplied. It has a positive slope. The number of houses supplied to the market is also rising as the price of houses increases. The correct supply measure is not the number of dwellings per household, but rather the value per household of the housing stock. This is because the dwellings are not equal. If the housing stock of Ireland has steadily changed from smaller rural cottage and urban terrace dwellings to the larger and more energy efficient homes over time, these rises in supply quality would not be reflected in a simple number of dwellings. Research on the 1975 to 2012 Irish housing market shows that a 10% rise in the real value of housing stock is correlated with an 8% decline in real house prices. A similar relationship is likely to be maintained between supply and rental prices. Notice that the effect is slightly less than proportional. There is a price effect, but also a limited quantity effect as housing stock rises. In an urban setting, the provision of housing is complex. Multiple elements exist, some of them highly visible, others almost completely invisible. No one worries about all the financial, technical, or administrative details that make the system work when it works well. 1. Land. The raw material of housing building is land, as was pointed out by Damon O'Leary in his recent Irish Times article. We have lots of land in Ireland and have the lowest housing density in Europe, but land is not coming forward for development, and the reason for that the complex. 2. Housing pricing policy. The control imposed by the central bank effectively among the framing a house pricing policy, particularly for the mid to lower price sector of the housing stock, but they also impact on the rental sector by forcing households to rent if they cannot afford to become owner-occupiers. Ireland is a very open economy, and the flow of skilled workers into or out of the state will be heavily influenced by the amount of a person pay package that has to be spent on housing. 3. Construction costs. The cost of building houses and apartments has increased significantly due both to general inflation but also because of insistence on higher construction standards and larger unit sizes. Comparing a 1970s semi-D with a 2015 version is like comparing a 1970s car to its modern equivalent, but these higher standards cost money and are only part appreciated and reflected by the market. The other factor adding to the new housing cost is taxation. For money. Money is abundantly available. A high saving ratio is a feature of most advanced societies, and Ireland is no exception. But money only comes on special terms. Equity capital and loan finance have distinct and different needs. 5. The rental market. If a similar cost-cutting exercise is applied to apartment development by reducing minimum sizes by 10% and by the government eliminating VAT and levies, that the economic rent required to justify new development fall to about €1,200 per month, which is still unaffordable for a large proportion of households. 6. Social and affordable housing. Social housing policy is clearly not working because none of the existing players on the stage has the attitude or the resources to produce the required result.
That's all from us. Thank you.